Live. Good morning and welcome and happy Easter. I'm Bob Pace, your host. And sorry I'm a little bit late. I changed the show to start at 11:30, but a little bit late there. Anyway, I'm here and I welcome you all to How to Fight CPS and Keep Your Children. CPS, as you know, stands for Children Protection Services. It's a branch of social services, and every state has it. Every county has it. It's usually the county administrates it. Um, so I know there's CPS workers in hospitals too. And right now, you all are saddened with this, of being involved in this case. I want to tell you how this show interacts with this podcast. This is a live podcast. It's from Southern California, and you found us on Facebook, and it's broadcast on YouTube, and we use the StreamYard application to talk on this show. It's an interactive podcast, meaning that you can interface with it. One way is to text messages, and what you can do is you put your name and the city and state about where you're from, and you can talk about your CPS case. You can ask questions and so forth. And I will try to help you as best I can. I am a CPS victim myself. I had 3 children that were stolen by CPS, and 2 of them returned. One of them was lost. I also lost my home because I had to sell my home to fight them. And fighting them is really hard because they're very corrupt. CPS, Children Protection Services, started way back in 1853, Children's Aid Society. Its whole purpose was to help these kids that were in these camps, these homeless camps. Children were, abandoned, abused, and neglected. And so they started getting donations from people to help out these children and the homeless people. And so it's been going on for 150 years. Sadly, one thing has not changed. That is the money situation. It's a money business. People there are making lots of money off your children. So it is tough to be in there. Now, another way besides texting and a message to me, the answer is that you can call in and speak on the show. It's a live broadcast. And the call in 626 698 0990. 626 698 0990. And you can go live. I'll put you on a speakerphone, and we can talk about your case. Your picture won't be shown. Now, if you're not ready to talk, that's understandable. I know this is really hard for you, and a lot of you are very, very upset. But if you want to talk at another time, you can do so by emailing my producer, Grace, at vincentwdavis.com. That's Grace at vincentwdavis.com. She is a really hard worker and remarkable person that puts together this podcast. And so you just email her, Grace at vincentwdavis.com. So those are several ways you can interact with the podcast. You can either, text a message or call in or schedule a time with one of my 14 shows. I'm on Monday through Sunday, morning, night. I start at 10 o'clock in the morning, go for an hour, and then nighttime, 7 o'clock for an hour Pacific Standard Time. It may vary at times, so Sunday was different. So I'll try to tell you ahead of time and everything. But this being Sunday, it's a day that we remember Jesus Christ, the risen, and it's also to be thankful for what we have and so forth. You probably never come across an agency like this before. Now, social services is a very tough agency only because they're not transparent. Um, they very misleading. Very, they think what you've done is somehow they think that's what you've done. I'm trying to adjust things here. Um, what I wanted to do is that there's always some rules I want to talk about, and they're really important with your case. But again, everything's settling down. I want people to come in and talk on the show, better than having me talk and so forth. But it's been a hard thing for me. Who am I? Some people ask me who I am. Well, I gave you my name is Bob Pace, and I'm a father and a husband, and I have a family and a home. And I love my children, love my family. Unfortunately, in my time of life, things have kind of taken the wrong direction. So, yes, I have been struggling the last, since 2010. So, what is it now? 2024. So, the last 14 years. And the thing that happened to me, unbeknownst to me, was that I lost my job in 2010 through no fault of myself at the age of 65. So I'm college educated. I've been, around the world, lived in many places, done many things. I've had many, many professions, from an ocean lifeguard to a marine animal trainer to a marine biologist to a secondary school teacher to manager of a restaurant to civil engineering. And that's road construction, heavy highway, and civil engineering. And so I've always worked all my life since I was 18. And so I put my way through college, played sports, played one of my sports I love is football. And I played soccer and baseball and also played rugby, and all went through high school and college. And I've also am very avid surfer and love to surf and have had wonderful experiences surfing. So one thing that came into my life was the allegations that came in 2010, soon after I lost my job. And that's what happens. There's two types of allegations. There's allegations by lay people and allegations by professional. And professionals are like your doctors, your teachers, your nurses, anybody that works with children. They have to report by law if they suspect any abuse or neglect with children. If they see something, if you test positive that you're on a drug, the doctor is going to report you to CPS. If you're a teacher and your child in class has fallen asleep, they're going to report to something wrong, CPS. If his weight is undersized or his clothes is baggy or he has bruises or marks, again, CPS is called on that. So those are the lay people. But the unfortunate part, there's a certain kind of lay people called in-laws or neighbors or friends. And those people have a tendency to make accusations that are not true, to retaliate. And what I mean by that, let's say the neighbor's dog is barking all the time, and you think you can call the neighbor to retaliate because the dog barks, or the tree is hanging over in your property. Or in my case, some in-laws, some family members wanted our children, so they made up stories that weren't true. And that's the sad part, because CPS has to take every story in. I mean, when they call it in, they have to take it, it's for real, and you're guilty until you're proven innocent. So they believe every accusation comes in there. Their MO, though, is that when they try to see your home, I'll talk about that in a second, they will take your children because they feel they're in imminent danger, even though they may not be. Because that's their MO. Their MO is to get a case open, get them into foster care so they can collect $20,000 a month per child until they're 18. It's really sad. It's a big, big money-making business. Hold on a second. I had my phone turned off because I was in the, I think calls are now coming in. Okay. Let me see if anybody tried to call me here. Okay, I heard the phone vibrate, so let's see if anybody called in here from there. Saturday was last time. Okay, so I haven't missed any calls yet. Okay. Saturday, no, all calls. Okay. CPS is not your friend. They're going to take away your children. And if some of you have already found out, they have. I've talked to over 100 people, different states, and it's the same common thing that I had. Allegations are made, they trick you and inspect your home, and they say, oh, your child's in imminent danger. Well, mine was crazy. You know, yes, I lost a job, and I was sorting my parents' furniture and going through it because they were dying. They asked me to. I didn't have it in storage. I should have. So because I had my stacks of boxes and my furniture in the house, they said I was neglecting the children. And they got me and my wife charged with child neglect, which is ridiculous. And then on top of that, they felt they're in imminent danger. Now, I don't know how a box can fly upstairs and attack the children, or furniture walk up the stairs and attack the children, but that's ludicrous. They just wanted to open a case. Also, Child Protection Services is smart. They find out if you're not working or you're low income or have no money or not educated, they're going to try to take advantage of you. That's the kind of people they prey on. They're not there to help you out. They'll tell you things that aren't true. And so that's really sad. So these allegations were coming in from my in-laws that said, oh, we weren't paying electricity, no food, kids weren't going to school and everything. And I disproved all that. For 5 years, I had those allegations come in there. And then one day I was pulled over by a police, and how it all started is that he was going the other direction, made a U-turn and pulled me over. And he said something about running a stop sign. And the only stop sign I knew was about 5 miles back, 15 minutes ago. And that's by my son's school. What apparently happened is a detective in an unmarked car had seen me at school, followed me, and there was a stop sign. I know I counted 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, and I proceeded to go ahead. And when I got further into the city, that's when he called ahead to the black and white to pull that guy over and tell him that he ran a stop sign. So they pulled me over, and I should have said, well, hey, give me the ticket now. Do that. I did not know by talking to this detective that my whole life was going to change, because I was down there going to pick up my wife, and I have my son with me, and our other two kids I pick up later. One's in high school and one's in middle school. And so he says, the officer pulled me over, did you know you run a stop sign? He says, I don't believe so. I stopped at that, and I said, aren't you a little far away to talk to me about something that happened, 5 miles back and something like that? He said, well, there's a guy behind that's there wants to talk to you. So this guy came in flak gear and combat boots and his badges and everything. And he says, you're going to follow me to your home. I said, why? Is somebody hurt? Did someone break into my house on fire? He wouldn't say anything. And that is not being transparent. That is wrong. He violated my civil rights. I asked him a civil right question. He wouldn't answer. And so I always respect the police. I always respect the government agencies. So I followed him. When I got to my home, it was a horrific thing to see. I have a beautiful home, or did have one when I owned it. And it was something that I dreamed for 40 years. And it's beautiful. My family, my kids, all had their own bedrooms. Our family consists of 6 kids, but 3 of them were living with us at the time. The other 3 had grown up and started their families on their own. And here was out in front of my yard in a private neighborhood. There was 5 firemen, 3 social workers, 2 code enforcement officers, 2 uniformed policemen, and then there was the detective. And they're all standing from my house. And I was shocked. I said, geez, the house looked fine or something like that. But they said, we want to inspect the house. I said, well, I have nothing to hide, but what are you accusing? They said they wouldn't tell me anything. Again, that's a violation. You're supposed to. You see, they're violating my constitutional rights. You're supposed to announce what you're here for. Also, you're supposed to have something called a warrant. And I'll explain to you that in a little bit there. Your house is your castle. You do not have to let anybody in there, the police or CPS. You don't have to talk to the police or CPS. You don't have to. And that was my mistake, is I tried to talk to them, try to be friendly with them, and do what they ask. Because I did not know about the law that they have to have a warrant. So they took advantage of me. Meanwhile, my wife is frantic, hanging out, downtown, waiting for me, doesn't know what's going on. I get a chance to call my wife. The detective was very rude there. That's another thing. You expect some courtesy out of these people? They were like animals, all wearing combat boots, all wearing flak gear. And I don't know what they were going to see. I have no idea. Now, granted, I had lost my job. So we were living kind of a Spartan lifestyle. I had let the gardener go. I had a guy that trimmed my yard and stuff. I let it go so it overgrow a little bit. It's overgrown a little bit. And I had my parents' belongings. Just recently, I brought down from where we sold our house. And the belongings, some of them were in the side yard, some were on the porch, and the rest of them were in the house in the garage. And, at first I put on my garage apron out front of the garage door, but the association says you can't do that against the CC&Rs. So what I did then is I had to, take it inside, and I was stacking it as best I could and so forth. And, they came into my house to see everything. And right away, the firemen were taking tape measures to measure the smoke alarm. The code enforcers were looking for a lock on the back door to the pool. And if there's a gate on the pool, they were looking for code violations. They're looking for anything to get me there because they knew they didn't have anything on me. All they had was the allegations. And that's what I was saying. You are guilty until you're proven innocent. And they tromped up the stairs with their dirty boots, got on my white furniture. That is my lounge chair, broke the bamboo just to stare outside the window. Oh, look at the nice swimming pool. Look at this. Look at the walk-in closets. Look at the jacuzzi in the bathroom. They're looking there, and there's the children. All the children look so nice. And they're telling me all these nice things. I thought they were going to find something. And then they said, well, what's all the story in these boxes? You can't have boxes stacked up there. You can't have furniture stacked there. Why? Well, that could possibly injure the children. That's called neglect. And that's what we're going to charge you is neglect, you and your wife. And of course, the detective was doing the same thing, but he also charged 3 counts of sexual charges. Didn't tell me what they were, but they throw it on there. And I found out later the reason why they do the sex charges is that's something they can barter with and drop. And so hopefully the other charges will stick there. So I'm being charged by both CPS and the detective. Now, the charges from the city didn't come until the district attorney reviewed it, and then he made his recommendations based on what the detective said. But it's ridiculous because all I was charged with neglect of having too many boxes stacked high that could endanger the children, not would, could. And so that's me and my wife. And then we had these 3 charges each because we had 3 children of sexual. They didn't say what the sexual charges were. They didn't take my computer, didn't take my phone. They didn't look for it. I mean, there's nothing there. I mean, there's nothing. I mean, I was really open at that, and the CPS didn't charge anything with sexual charges. So that day, they said their children was in imminent danger. They couldn't stay in the house, and I was shocked at that. I mean, where they took our children was worse. They took our children to a block, a concrete block, and what they did there is that their play yard was next to a juvenile prison, and the juvenile people could come out and interact with the kids there. It was overcrowded. It was dirty. The meals were awful. The sleeping accommodations were bad. Also outside, there's a beehive that could sting the children. So that was protecting my children. They took them from supposedly imminent danger to put them in there. They're more in danger in the blockhouse. And they're in there for a couple of days. Their idea of school, by the way, was to read a storybook to them. Now, my 3 children were in curriculums that was STEM, meaning that it's a science class, a technology class, an engineering class, and a math class. Because they're going, both my sons were talking about going to outer space. And one wanted to be a robotic engineer, and the other one wanted to be an astronaut to fly to Mars. And so that's what their goals were. So they need a lot of math and science and engineering and technology classes. And my daughter loves sports. And she really at that time didn't express what she wanted. I really didn't know because she was in middle school at the time. And my son, who was 15 at the time, was in high school. He's going to a private high school. And my young son was still at elementary school. He was 9, daughter was 12, my son was 15. And they were taken from a safe, loving environment and placed into a sterilized block shelter with inmates in their play yard and beehives and lousy food. And it was terrible. It was right near the dependency courts. This is in Southern California. And so this is their idea of safe, and so that's how my children were taken and so forth. And at that time, I did not know about this rule number 1 that I have. In fact, all 3 rules I did not know, and I want you all to know them because if you haven't done so, you'll need to do so. And if you do, you understand where you're at. Rule number 1 is you need an attorney. And why you need an attorney, you're going to find CPS is terrible. It's like a spaghetti of nightmares. It's like if you're in Alice in Wonderland, you fall in a rabbit hole and you got all these cards to deal with, all these doors that don't open. You don't know where you're going. And you don't in CPS. The social workers are not trained or educated. They're not even, on your side. They never heard of family reunification. You see, the law says that the Child Protection Service is supposed to protect their children from neglect and abuse and do family reunification, meaning if there's a hiccup with the parents, they can take a parenting class, a program, whatever it needs to be, and they can get back with their children. Their children can be returned. And children are placed in shelters. They're in group homes and also foster care parents' homes. And so our kids experienced all 3 of them. And it is really, 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 really sad. It's sad. So I was talking about rule number 1. And, if you have open heart surgery, are you going to use a layperson to work on your heart? Are you going to use yourself to work on the heart? Or are you going to a professional doctor? A doctor is trained or educated and knows what they're doing. Same way with CPS. You need a family law attorney. I cannot emphasize that more than anything. A family law attorney. A family law attorney. And you need someone that knows about CPS, how to fight them, how to get their kids back, and so forth. And also, you need to make a list of attorneys because one may not be enough. You may have to look at a bunch of them. And why I'm saying that is that you find 10 dependency attorneys by searching the Google there. You get all their names, and then you find which of the 10 do CPS cases, have fought CPS cases, can't handle that kind of thing. Then narrow that down to 5. And then from 5, you call them. And what you do is you talk to each of them and see if they fit with you. They sit and fit with you. Now, I have an attorney here. This show is produced by Vincent W. Davis and Associates. And this attorney is a professional law attorney. He's also a trial attorney. He has fought CPS and won. He's gotten kids back. Furthermore, he's filed lawsuits and won, and civil suits he's won against them. So he's really a good person to talk to. And he offers a consultation services for $49.99 for 30 minutes. And he'll talk about the strategies of how to fight CPS and the strategies of how to get your children back. It's well worth it. It's only 30 minutes, and you can set yourself in the right direction. And you may find other attorneys. And I know that a lot of you don't have money. I didn't have money either. And I thought, okay, well, maybe I could use the public defender that they're going to give you. That was the stupid thing I ever did. Everything was stupid on me. I broke all 3 of my rules. Because, as I said, the first rule is to get an attorney, because they're going to help you navigate through a system that's corrupt, deception, they're not transparency. There's no board of supervisors or directors watching the CPS in my case. And my worker didn't have any education from college. They need a college degree in social work. My social worker didn't have anything about social work. She thought she was a clinical therapist, and she's not. She thought she could prescribe drugs, and only doctors can prescribe drugs. She was only interested in the bonus that she would get, the bonuses that they gave her. So she would show off her false eyelashes or makeup and say, see my dress, see my Gucci purse, and I have a BMW car, all thanks to you because we're collecting money off you. So I'm sad to say they don't know anything about family reunification. They don't know really how to protect children, and especially when they have not even been mentored. They go into the program at 22 and they haven't had a chance to be mentored. And so you can imagine what they do to you and your children. They do alienation. They also do child trafficking. They traffic your child. Do alienation there. So it's really tough. It's really, 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 really tough. And so rule number 2 is something I should have done in the beginning, is take notes. You need to write down each incident with the date and time and who is in attendance, what children, what social workers, what police. You write down the names on the first line after you put the date and time of the incident. Next line, you want to put down what the incident was about. They took your children, they came to your home. Whatever the incident was, you write it down. And then the third line, you write down the outcome. And the outcome is what happened at the end. Now, you may not have the outcome for 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years. So you need that kind of open. Then you want to skip a couple lines and put your next entry of your next incident. Skip a couple lines, so forth. That way, it's a book that is referencing your CPS cases. You use highlight markers to mark it and that you want to refer to and stuff. And that way, if 6 months from now, you'll know what's going on. You know that they went to court in that such date. So I highly say a good notebook you need to take. And it's easy to write on a notebook. I know some people say phones and computers, but I have big hands and you can't see the whole space on a phone or computer. But anyway, that's my rule number 2. Now, rule number 3 is, I was talking earlier, I went ahead and did a mistake and talked to the social workers and the policemen. You don't need to talk to social workers. And now there's another kind of social workers, some in the military, by the way, and some in the hospitals. And these social workers, you don't have to talk to them. You do not have to say anything to them because they have to have a warrant to force you to do anything. And also the same thing goes with police. And you're not supposed to let them in your home. They have to have a warrant, something that tells that the court will allow the person into the home, but it's got to be someone who's taking out a warrant, and it has to be filled out correctly with the name, the allegations, the date and time, and when they can inspect the home, and the address of the home. So if that's not done, then you can ask them to submit that to you. So rule number 3 is that you want to, steer them away from your home, because they're going to see anything and fabricate something, because they really are hurting for facts, because they're all trying to do the same thing as the money part. And policemen are duped into by the social worker to carry out a illegal search or illegal take your children type thing. They're not supposed to take your children. They got to have a warrant to take your children, and they're going to try to take your children, even though you've not done any danger exhibiting to you. They're going to try to take them. So I'm telling you that you need to get a you need to get an attorney, but you also need to tell them no. Don't talk to them. Don't think, because they're tricksters. They'll deceive you. They'll say, "Oh, you'll get your children back if you sign this. Oh, you get your children back if you let me say this." Those aren't legitimate entries, and so I'm telling you that be careful. It's like yes, no answers, and be careful the information you share with a social worker. So that being said, I've told you my 3 rules. I told you the importance of hiring an attorney, keeping a notebook, and don't let them in there. And the warrant, by the way, is not a copy one there. Okay, we got a person to text in, Sherry Lynn. See, this scares me. I know it scares you, Sherry. I'm just telling you reality. If you want to talk on the show, you can. What city and state are you from, Sherry? It is a scary thing. CPS is not your friend. And I'm sorry for you. I feel for you guys out there. And I'm an intelligent man, and I'm a fighter, and I could write good letters and things, but I tried to fight them for a year and a half to hire an attorney. And that was Mr. Davis. But the director of my CPS in Southern California was a joke. The office building was the Taj Mahal of India. It didn't look like it'd be a public place, and it looked very gaudy. And on top of that, I went to the top dog, and I tried to have meetings and write him about all the illegal, violating my constitutional rights, my civil rights. So that guy was really bad. And then he had his assistants. They're no more better. It's just yes answers. And the place they had was so rich. I thought with the gold around his neck, he was going to fall on the ground. It was terrible. It was terrible. So I'm telling you, they're not to be trusted. And you have to get an attorney, because you will not be able to fight them. I tried. But you need someone who knows the law, that's been in the trenches, and knows how to fight CPS. And again, we have an attorney, Vincent Davis, and you can go and have a consultation with him at 888-888-6582. You'll call into the office and schedule a time which best suits for you. Sherry, if you tell me your city and state, that would help. If you don't, that's all right. That's fine. If you have a question, you can help me with that too. That'd be fine there. This is tough. It's really, really tough, especially when you lose a child through no fault of your own. They are so corrupt. They will tell your children anything, and the children's going to believe it. Especially weak children and young children that don't know any better. My My daughter's 21. I still miss her. Mom and I still miss her. She's 21. And my son is 24. My young son's 18. They still go through the trauma. They're eventually returned to me, but I had to go through hell for 3 years. It was terrible. I mean, we'd go to church and there'd be a monitor behind us in the pew. If my son took communion wrong, he'd be punished. That was by the foster kids, the foster parents. So I'm telling you that it's really bad. It really is bad. If I could do the whole thing over again, I would have done it differently. I would have got an attorney out of the chute. I would never followed that guy to my home. I said, if you're going to arrest me for something, then tell me what you're going to arrest me for. He got me. He got me because I was gullible, because I believe in police. And right now, the police have been very corrupt, especially this city I'm living in. They are very, 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 very corrupt. So I'm telling you that it's going to be the worst nightmare. It is so. It's like a spider spinning a web. And one person on my show is from Kentucky, and she said that her CPS was audited and they were $389,000. They couldn't say where it went. I'm trying to tell you, they are corrupt. And it isn't just me. I mean, it was Kay that called in to do that. And she's a former foster care, and she's a mother now and stuff. And they took her kids. You know, that foster care is a really rough business, I tell you. It's a fast way to get a child because normal adoption takes a long time. But if you're with CPS, want to be a foster parent, they're accepted pretty easily. And they don't have to go through so much of the stuff that you're going through. I want you all know I feel for you, I understand for you. I know what you're going through. So if you don't want to comment, you don't want to talk, that's fine. That can be down the road. Because it is hard to talk about your case. And I've talked long about my case, and I like to right now leave it alone at the moment. Um, I like to talk about some. Sherry, I know it scares you. I can see it there. It does. I like to help you out, Sherry, and anybody else out there. I have someone that sent an emoji crying. I'm so sorry. It's a sad face by Niccolo Muskin McLeod. And I think you've been on my show too. I don't know what you're sad about, but I'd love for you to talk to me. Um, you know, it's a horrible experience because what you go through. See, after the allegations come in, and right now they should scrap the allegations. They should not be phoned in. They should be put in writing and your name signed to it. That way, if they're false, then that person could be sued and then submitted to the city there or CPS. And, the phone call, they don't need to. If it's that serious, they get 911 and the police will be out there. If a child abuse is ongoing, like a child being slammed against the wall because they're making too much noise, or some parents are abusing the children, A lot of abuse goes on. I hear it all the time. Nickelodeon last week had reports of abuse with young children on the movie channel. They're being, you know, approved. I heard about a parent that went away for a week and a half, left her child in the little play toddler toy and forgot about it for a week and a half. That poor child was dead when she came back. And they found out the child died of lack of food and water. Plus, the child was in his own feces and in a diaper. It was terrible. He had E. coli. He died a horrible death. You imagine after a couple of days, you have nobody around and you're starving, you're going to cry out loud. That child cried its heart out, dying. So there is abuse, but the abuse is not as rampant as they're trying to make it be. And I think if they get rid of the call-in and do a mandatory write-in, it'd be a lot better. Because if the abuse is serious enough, they'll call 911, we'll have to call the police. And they'll intervene. And they can enter the home, by the way, if there's ongoing abuse taking place. But so many of us had some sad stories about how you lost children because your alternative lifestyle is you're homeless or you have no money. And that's wrong. If you love your child and you want to take care of them, especially children that have special needs. There's several parents of you that have called in and said they won't let me have my child and he needs special needs. And they can't take care of them. Foster care doesn't want special needs children. CPS, I don't understand CPS at all. But it's hold on a second right now. Hold on. I'll get you there. Anyway, I'm sorry, there's an interruption here. And so, let me talk about some topics that have come across here. There's something that came up recently called the Interstate Compact on the Placement of Children. And what that is the Interstate Compact of the Placement of Children is carried among all 50 states. There's agreement, including the District of Columbia, the Virgin Islands, Guam, and Puerto Rico, and providing protection and support service for children moved between the states for birth parents unification or reunification when the court has jurisdiction over the child. So that's to get the children back because biological parents are the best parents to get there. So it's agreement, and what they'll do is they'll protect you on that. The reasonable fact finder, I want to talk about that. There's an appellate court decides whether a reasonable fact finder could have come to the same conclusion based on the facts in the record. So if there's a conflict in evidence and a reasonable fact finder could resolve the conflict either way, the appellate court will not overturn the trial court's decision. The Children Age Society is you got to read that. It starts in 1853. And it's started by a small group of clergymen and social reformers. And it's to help out our children that were in tents, in camps, and so forth. And it started in Greenwich. And it was founded by Long Brace. Anyway, I don't know if that's important to who founded it. There's a story you guys need to look up about behavioral health needs of children sent out of state from Georgia to Texas. And it's sad because I guess Georgia couldn't take care of them. Something came up about New Prunk Pro Tunk. New Prunk Pro Punk. What that is, it's a Latin expression which means now for then in general a court ruling. New Prunk Pro applies retroactively to correct an earlier ruling. Like for instance, the date. The court has the discretion in family law matters to order entry of judgment new trunk, which makes the order relate back in time to when it should have been entered. And that's to avoid injustice. So if there's a wrong date and so forth. So that's someone that brought that up to my attention there too. Someone asked me, well, who is an ombudsperson? Ombudsperson is a civil rights coordinator. Is what it is. It's a neutral party who helps resolve complaints or answers questions about the CPS agency or practices. The ombudsperson is a liaison between CPS and the public, clients, and other government and private agencies. The ombudsperson conducts reviews in an independent and impartial manner to ensure that the agency, policy, or practice are consistent with CPS goals and missions. So the ombudsperson seeks to resolve issues in a fair and timely manner. But so far, people that have used them or talked to them, they're friends with the social workers. They just feed them the information. So they have not worked for a lot of people. I didn't ever use them. So they have another one called CASA, court appointed person, and they haven't worked out either. And so it's some of the stuff is really strange they have there. Now, there's one thing you need to look at. It's called the Welfare Institution Code, Section 300B. It's very important because it talks about the child that suffers the crimes and physical harms and neglect. It's all about what they maybe be accusing you of. So you need to look it up and read it. It's very, very, very important there. Now, one thing you're going to get at the safety meeting, usually when your childs are taken, you have within that week, you have a safety meeting. And that during that safety meeting, the social worker is supposed to ask, are there any Indian children or Indian parents? If the answer is yes, then what they're supposed to do, they're supposed to contact the tribe and see if the parents are registered and see if they're not registered, could be registered. That's beneficial because the Indians place them in Indian families. They don't place them in child protection or foster care. They don't abuse them as much. Indian families will take care of the children and put them back after the hiccups of the parents and so forth. So that's what the Indian Child Welfare Act. Make sure you look that up if you're Indian, a Native American Indian here. Okay. See what else we got here. I already talked about what to do if CPS comes to your home. You don't let them in, period. Now, there's a thing called the Department of Social Services. Every state has one. That's where your CPS is found. That's where your Social Security, everything. Social Security has its own. But social assistance like food and housing and those kinds of things there. And so it's also a place where you can complain about abuse or neglect by calling in. Child custody and visitation issues are handled there. Support issues, child and custody visitation issues are www.courts, and then the state, the two-digit state, then .gov. Child support issues, child support then the state, then .gov. And if there's violations for foster, you can make a complaint to the Office of Foster Care Ombudsperson. And each state will have that address and so forth. And if you have complaints regarding the county social worker, you go to www.cwda.org. And what you want to do is you want to talk to the director of the county CWS agency for resolution. You make complaints against law enforcement officers by going to the, you see here, by going to the county's district attorney's office and file a complaint. Now, complaints, you can complain about the judge. You can go to the state commissioner on judicial performance and complain. And so, that webpage, Department of Social Service for your state, is something you really want to look at. Now, you want to look at Code 270 PC. That's child neglect laws. That's penal code. And that's, what you could face is jail time and fines up to $2,000 per offense if you're convicted. So look at that one in there too. We're getting close to the end of my show here. I have about 8 minutes left. I'm going to be signing off. I'll be on again tonight at 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time tonight. So hopefully you can come back, Sherry, and maybe feel better to talk then. I don't know what was scaring you, but I think CPS itself does scare you. It's a horrible, horrible agency. It's not very fun to be involved in that agency. It is there. But I want to thank all my listeners, and I don't want everybody to be sad faces here. It's Easter weekend and Easter. But the one thing I do know, if you fight and keep fighting for your children, they will come back. If you fight for your children, they will come back. So don't forget to fight for your children. Also, I want to talk about the 388 motion, modifications of the juvenile court judgments and orders. That's a mechanism that you would use to file with the judge so that you can have a hearing within 30 days to modify or change judicial court judgments and orders. And so you may have a change in circumstances or new evidence. And so you want to find that and file it. That will help save you. A lot of people have tried it. It works successful in there. Again, you need an attorney. I don't know how to emphasize that. And we have an attorney here. His name is Mr. Davis. And you can schedule him at 888-888-6582 and just tell him that Bob Pace sent you. And when you talk to Mr. Davis, tell him that I sent you, Bob Pace. And he'll do a 30-minute consultation for $49.99. So I want to thank you all for taking the time to listen to the show. I want you to say good luck to your show. And I want you also to be safe. And I will see you this evening. So it's very rainy out there, so be safe out there. I care about you. I really do. I've been there. I know the feelings that you have. I know what you're going through. Don't give up. Don't give up. And please know that I've been there. I survived. It works. Just keep persistent there. Get yourself an attorney. Take good notes. Don't talk to them. Don't let them take your children, and do not let them in your home. And that goes wherever they're at. If a caseworker's at the hospital, tell them to wait in the lobby. They don't need to be in your birthing room. Only family members are allowed there. And you can control it. You can tell the hospital staff to get them out of your room. Same with policemen. If there's an ongoing crime, yes, the policeman CPS can be there. But they have to have a court order to be in there. They have to have a warrant to be in that room of yours at the hospital. I'm saying that because a lot of people forget that, and they're very intimidated by the police, and social workers can be very intimidating. They need to change. A lot of changes have to make, and this is election year. So you need to vote for a judge. You need to vote for a judge this year. And you need to get a judge that knows about family law. So it's our responsibility to vote for the judges. We can't complain about them if we don't have the right judges. So I'm telling you now, you need to vote for the right judges and have them there. Okay. So again, God bless you, and I'll see you tonight. This is Bob Pace signing off.